two teams that I don't know if they stepped up. they kind of just said, hey, F it, let's just make a deal, was Houston and Washington. We finally got our blockbuster trade that Caleb and I were talking about a few weeks ago. Russell Westbrook was officially traded for John Wall and a first-round pick. Caleb, give me your first thoughts on this trade. What did you think when you saw this? Were you at all surprised to see that this trade actually went through?
When it first got reported like 2 months ago that they like entertained the idea of it, I was like, okay, like that'd be cool 6 years ago. But now like John Wall hasn't played a game since 2017, and Westbrook, after that playoffs run he had, he don't look that good. And it's like now they're just kind of like big names, but former, you know what I mean? Like former top talent. But then, I mean, you look into things, and during the season, Russell Westbrook was really good. And yeah, his contract sucks, but so does John Wall's. And you get into it and you think, well, Westbrook and Bill, that's definitely a top 3 backcourt. It just, I don't know how much it fits. It does help Washington because I don't think Wall's ever going to be the same, which sucks because Wall, during those like heated Celtics and Wizards playoffs, I loved watching John Wall. And it sucks he's not going to be the same, but I mean, Washington got better. I don't know if Houston really did, but Harden apparently wanted to play with Wall and not Westbrook. So
that was interesting to see. I'm kind of interested in the fact that if James Harden really is going to stay, I mean,
yeah,
like you said, this team would have won a championship probably in 2014. This Houston team with DeMarcus and John Wall and James Harden, that's a contender 5 years ago.
Dude, that team shuts down whatever the Warriors were about to build. I'm telling you, because that KD would have went to Houston. He wouldn't have.
Oh, stop with the KD slander, Caleb, please.
Sorry. Dude, no, I actually like KD. It's just he's a fun guy to pick on.
He is, and that's why he likes to have burner accounts. But speaking of his former teammate, Russell Westbrook, he was bothered by this trade, and I think not really the fact that he was traded, because it's kind of seemed like he was ready to leave Houston. But I think he was more shocked and more bothered by the fact that people are suggesting he's a bad teammate.
Yeah.
It's kind of a known thing now that you don't want to play with Russell Westbrook, that he is that point guard that's inefficient. He's not as athletic as he used to be. I even watched a game with Miami and OKC in the finals. I think it was game 5 in Miami. Yeah, and Russell Westbrook was absolutely dominating that game. Mm-hmm. It just showed me, it reminded me of what I forgot about how talented of a player Russ really was. He's probably the best point guard we've had in a decade as far as athleticism, since Derrick Rose. I mean, yes, there is the Stephs of the world, and, you know, you have guys like that, the Trae Youngs now, and you got whatever you want to call Luka, but Russ's athleticism and his force and speed and anger that he played with was insane. And I think it definitely hurts him that nowadays people are kind of discrediting him. And look, he got traded for a guy who hasn't played in 2.5 years. I get it. John Wall, to me, I was a bigger John Wall fan than I was a Westbrook fan. Yeah. But Russell Westbrook has been a guy that, again, last year he averaged 27, 7, and 6. This is not a guy that's averaging 10 and 5, or this is not a guy that's bouncing in and out of the league. This is a guy that's an all-star that is a potential. He was an MVP. That you know, he has everything besides a championship now. And
that's why I'm a fan of it, because you were paying John Wall this much money and he wasn't even playing. So why not pay Russell Westbrook and give up a first? And did you see all the protections they have on their first round pick? That's more than likely going to end up as 2 second-round picks, because it's protected for like 7 years.
But that's not a bad trade then. Again, I'm not mad at it at all from Washington's perspective. I think that's a good trade for them. Mm-hmm. Not an amazing trade, but they got rid of a tough contract in John Wall that a lot of people thought was untradeable, right? Yeah. And again, I'm happy with it, but from Houston's perspective, doesn't make much sense. Obviously, when you know Bradley Beal's excited, we know how excited he is to play with a guy like Russell Westbrook. I mean, you can only imagine playing with another star point guard, it's only going to excite you. But he was disappointed to leave his old teammate, John Wall.
I'm trying not to get emotional now, but it was tough, man, because he's a brother, and you realize that relationship was so strong, but it was so crazy because a lot of people tried to break us apart. A lot of people tried to put us apart, put us against each other. And it was just always crazy because when we came together and had those conversations, it was the total opposite of what everybody was making, the rumors and the noise. It was the total opposite. So, that's, like I said, man, that's a brotherhood that'll never be thrown away. Our relationship continues. But that last conversation it spoke volumes. But I think it definitely spoke volumes for him to just come back. For him to be able to just come back to the facility. And I'm not sure if he was hurt or if he was happy, but it just spoke volumes of who John is as a person. For him to come back and say his goodbyes to everybody. I haven't seen not many players do that ever.
So obviously Bill's upset, and that's a brother to him. Loyalty in the NBA is difficult.
Mm-hmm.
We've seen it before. We've seen players get traded. Organizations don't care. That at the end of the day, you're just a product to them. So, I'm sure it's difficult for Bradley Beal in that situation. Who do you think is really next in that situation for a Bradley Beal type of guy? Do you see that being maybe potentially like Portland?
Maybe.
I mean, with Dame and CJ, we've seen it year after year after year. They're kind of similar in the aspect that they're very close, and people try to tear them down and try to trade them, and we've seen it with Steph and Clay, but especially with the two in Portland, with CJ and Dame, they haven't won a championship. People have trying to tear that team apart and make something of it. I mean, hopefully that team will last, but I really don't know. The long-term perspective, I don't see a championship there.
Nah, it won't happen. But I was thinking this the other day, like, yeah, players want to get that championship, but I wonder, like, once you reach a point where like CJ and Dame, like, I wonder how much more you really want, or if you're content with just building that brotherhood and that bond and just, you know what I mean, going to work every day. And I know players want to reach that next level, but I wonder if, like, deep down they understand, like, we're not going to reach that level. So, like, let's just enjoy playing together. And
one person who realized that was James Harden. James Harden pretty much said, hey, I'm done playing with Westbrook. Let's ship him off. And he told his team that he wanted to play with John Wall over Russ. And I think that's part of the reason why we saw the hurt from Westbrook, that, he was disappointed in the fact that he wasn't able to play with a guy that he asked to be traded to and a guy that he thought they were brothers on the court. So I'm excited to see what Houston's going to do. DeMarcus is excited to play with John Wall. I don't know if you heard what he said, but let's get to him real quick.
Man, it's an incredible feeling. This is something me and him have planned and dreamed about for a long time. So I'm pretty sure he's just as grateful for this moment as I am. We're super excited. There's obviously a chemistry between me and him from our college days. Not only were we teammates in college, we've been knowing each other since we were 14 years old. So that's a guy I consider one of my better friends in the NBA. He was actually one of the groomsmen in my wedding. So, that's a brother for life. So I'm extremely excited to be on the floor with.
The theme of the day seems to be brotherhood.
Yeah.
But speaking of DeMarcus, I'm happy for him. You see him working out in Houston. Do you see John Wall and Boogie's return? Do you see that being a little Kentucky reunion, or is this kind of like the two old men returning to their old league and looking kind of washed up?
I like both of them. I really do. But I'm just trying to think, like, realistically speaking, Wall hasn't played in 2.5 years. He's looked good in open runs, but we all remember the whole hoodie Melo thing. It's partially why I'm wearing a hoodie right now. I was making fun of it. And Boogie, I know you love Boogie, right?
Yeah, watch your mouth.
He's been hurt, and he keeps coming off these scary injuries, right? Like ACL, Achilles. Like, they're not fun. I'm not going to have too high of hopes. I really hope that they can be that because, dude, that would be so much fun, being able to see, like, all the stuff they've both been through, like, to be able to push through that and then tear it up in the NBA. I just don't see it happening. I give it like a 20% chance it's as good as we all hope.
I agree with you. I think that the likelihoodness of them two really working out is very low. I mean, you got two guys coming off major injuries, and they're not just coming off one injury, they're coming off multiple. So it's going to be tough to see that, but I really do hope that we see somewhat version of them too. I'm buying the BS on James Harden even wanting to play with John Wall. I think he's out. I don't even think we'll see him play in Houston by opening night. And partly, I think that's why we don't see Houston on opening night or Christmas Day or MLK Day. There's a reason for it. And I think the big reason for that is the NBA knows James Harden's leaving. So we'll see where he goes. But we will know that Russell Westbrook will make his return to Houston on the 26th of January, and John Wall will return to D.C. on February 15th.